Let's clear something up right now. Nobody is born a people pleaser. We don't come out of the womb apologizing for existing. We don't enter this world hypervigilant, managing moods, or making ourselves smaller to feel safe. Because if you have kids or you've ever observed kids under the age of 6, they do not give a F. They will say whatever, do whatever, run around like crazy. They do not care what other people think, and they do not dim their lights for anyone or anything. So if you crave external validation and you're a people pleaser, it's definitely not who you are, because it's not how any of us were born. It's a survival response. And if that lands in your body, stay with me, because I'm Angie Hawkins, the Inner Glow Coach, and I help women go from people pleaser to powerhouse and break free from external approval addiction by teaching nervous system safety, self-trust, and identity level change. Not surface level boundaries. It's real embodied power. And I don't teach this from a book. I teach it because I've lived it. So today we're talking about, where does people pleasing actually come from, and why does carrying it into an adulthood feel like a prison? For most of us, when we were 18 or under, we were under the care of our primary caregivers. For most of us, this is our biological parents, but it can be grandparents or other kinds of guardians. And because legally we had no other choice, we spent 18 years in that situation. And some people were born into Hallmark families, and some of us were not. And for those of us that were not, we had to develop behavioral strategies to protect our emotional or even physical safety. And for many of us, that felt exhausting, unhappy, and unfulfilled. And what protected us as children and teenagers becomes a self-imposed prison as an adult. Because now we can take care of ourselves, but our nervous system doesn't realize that because it's still in survival mode. So as an adult, instead of protection, these behavioral strategies can look like chronic self-suppression of who we really are, resentment that we don't feel allowed to express, exhaustion from performing instead of being, and relationships that are built on approval, not real connection. And the worst part about all of this is that we start to feel helpless. Like, no matter how self-aware you are, no matter how much inner work you've done, your body keeps defaulting back to the same patterns. And I know this because I've been there. I've had that trapped feeling that, why can't I just stop doing this shame spiral? And I want you to know, it's not because you're broken. It's because your nervous system is doing its job, and it's simply being loyal to what once kept you alive. So my personal story about this is, I grew up in a very critical environment. So very early on, I learned to water myself down. I learned to look outside myself for cues. So I was always hyper vigilant, managing moods, and becoming what other people needed me to be. So very early on, I became my mom's emotional caretaker. She handed me the role of being responsible for her emotional regulation, and because I didn't know better, I accepted it. And unfortunately, that role didn't stop when I became an adult. And also, unfortunately, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So I started doing this in other areas of my life, with other choices, with friendships, with romantic relationships. Basically, how I moved in the world was this survival strategy of people pleasing and appeasing other people. Because when you grow up managing someone else's emotions, you learn that love comes from being useful and doing, not being yourself and being. So naturally, I kept role playing. And like many people, I became a people pleaser to society's arbitrary rules. So, for example, I went to college because that's what you're supposed to do. And I hated it. I was just going through the motions, checking boxes, and ignoring my body that was screaming, I hate this. This isn't it. But my mom wanted it, society wanted it, and I was terrified of rocking the boat. So I conformed. And then I got a corporate job, followed more arbitrary rules, played the part, even though I was burned out and my soul was dying inside. And the reason is because people pleasers don't ask, is this what I want to do? Is this aligned with my values? Or better yet, people pleasers don't even ask themselves, what are my values? They ask themselves, will this keep me safe from criticism? So again, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So in relationships, and I'm talking romantic relationships and even platonic friendships, I had the exact same pattern. I never asked myself, do I even like this person? Because I was too busy asking, do they like me? So I wasted all of my energy chasing approval instead of connection. I performed for love. I tolerated behavior that hurt me. I stayed in toxic relationships. And again, this includes romantic relationships and platonic friendships and family relationships because subconsciously that felt familiar. And I truly believed that love had to be earned through effort, sacrifice, and self abandonment because that's what I had learned as a child and a teenager. So maybe this is where you can start to see part of yourself in this story. So it should come as no surprise that I was miserable. And worse than that, I was unfulfilled. I felt purposeless. I felt disconnected, like I was living someone else's life in my body. And the worst part about all of this, I truly did not believe that happiness and fulfillment was something that was even available to me. And that is the real cost of people pleasing. Not the exhaustion, not the burnout. It's the disconnection from your own life force. And I'm telling you, everything changed when I stopped living by arbitrary rules, by society systems, school systems, family systems. And I call them arbitrary because where did they even come from? We're all just blindly following them and not even questioning, what do we want for ourselves? So when I stopped asking for permission, when I stopped organizing my life around external approval, when I stopped abandoning myself to keep the peace, everything changed. I became way more happy and fulfilled because my validation was internally sourced. So, this is what I want you to take away from this. When you stop chasing breadcrumbs, when you start attracting what's meant for you, your nervous system finally starts to feel safe in your body. And you don't need that external validation to feel worthy. You don't need to perform. You don't need to over explain. And you definitely don't need to dim your light. You should never be dimming your light for anybody or anyone. So when your nervous system finally starts to feel safe being who you really are, you become grounded, and even better, you become magnetic because that energy is not only is it within you, but it's radiating outwards. And that is where the power lives. So if this video stirred something in you, and even if you felt exposed but relieved at the same time, nothing is wrong with you. You don't need to fix who you are because people pleasing isn't who you are. It's a behavioral strategy. But you're not a child anymore, and survival isn't necessary because you're an adult who can take care of yourself. So, this is part 2 in the series, and it's about reclaiming your power and rewriting your identity and learning how to live from self trust instead of fear. And in part 3, we're going to go deeper into there's primary beliefs that keep people pleasing alive. and we're going to go into strategies into how to start reprogramming them. So stay with me, subscribe, and remember, you don't have to earn your right to exist. You're an adult, you can make your own rules now, and you are worthy just by being, because you are worthy for who you are. And lastly, if you want to dive deeper into any of this, my People Pleaser to Powerhouse Masterclass is now available, and that link is in the description.